The Afterdeath Journal of an American Philosopher, The Worldview of William James, by Jane Roberts. And we only have 2 chapters left in this book now. The last chapter is the epilogue, and it's by Jane. And it's all about her, how she channeled this book, and her life, really, at this point. And that's really interesting. And this chapter that I'm about to read, this is again William James talking about the overview that he has of mankind on earth from his position now in the afterlife, or as he calls it, the after death. It's a short chapter, so hope you enjoy it. Here we go. Friday afternoon, July 22nd, 1977. Men's visions of nature's sources may vary. They may be shoddy or sublime, for they will be like snapshots taken by the visionary camera of the intuitions, and no camera is like any other, and our travelers vary in their proficiency as photographers. Moreover, these visions of God must appear superimposed on a film already predisposed, as if by mental chemicals, to take certain kinds of pictures over others. The sportsman may imagine a winner's god, the soldier a god of war, the fearful a god of a god of retribution. Man will interpret this power, then, through his own individual nature, and his conceptions will evolve with his own experience and understanding. Men who travel to foreign countries are often inveterate picture snappers. People who are so amateur as to be ashamed of their own pictures will want some to show on their return home. So they will buy pretty postcards, perhaps, taken by a professional photographer under the best of conditions. The sun will be shining, the sky pure blue. All will be picturesque, yet sadly lacking the touch of authenticity apparently in even the traveler's own poorest picture. On the day of his visit, the sky might be clouded, or rain falling, and the particular buildings might be changed in a variety of ways from the time of the photographer's postcard picture. So, while there is a general connection between the traveler's experience and the photographer's picture, our traveler, on his return, will know the difference, even though he tries to convince himself that what he saw tallies with the postcard image. In the same way, the conventional images of God distributed by the various religions represent posed, formal, yet picturesque, generalized and stylized versions for those who do not trust their own abilities in such matters. These serve as handy guidelines, representing the personifications of nature's source as glimpsed in certain spiritual or mental or psychic places. But they must remain general and mass-produced. Beside this, however, conventionalized religious photographs in quotes, were taken long before our traveler's lifetime, as a rule, and we are glaringly out of date with his own experience. On seeing them, he hesitates to comment on the sense of strangeness he feels, knowing intuitively that the images are clothed in a spiritual fabric long since frayed, even though they have been retouched in the pictures themselves as to appear in good repair. So our traveler finally begins to take his own psychic snapshots or spiritual photographs, knowing full well that he is an amateur. He must learn to operate his visual camera and keep it in readiness for those moments when he suddenly glimpses that extraordinary power, no matter how fleetingly. His private photo album may be limited in size. Therefore, yet each picture will represent his own private vision at any given time, and the pictures may not be similar, but vastly different one from another. At first, this may confuse him, for unwittingly he may still be comparing his own pictures with the more standardized ones. His visions may make no sense at all at the start then. Walking along one day, for instance, he may suddenly feel an inner swirl of extraordinary energy. The sky takes on a cast of light that he's never noticed before. The cows in a nearby pasture are endowed with a placid majesty and ancient power. He stands transfixed. The cows seem to possess a wisdom that he's never seen, even amongst priests, even in a priest's or monk's face. That wisdom spreads like a summer breeze from the animals to himself, invisibly entering his soul, until for a moment he does not know if he is himself watching the cows or the cows watching him. He knows only that he is feeling an intimacy with some force that moves and forms cows and men, a spirit more ancient than the meadows and as new as the moment of his experience. Wednesday morning, July 27th, 1977. He snaps a simple landscape. His photograph is innocent of conventional representations. It shows no statues or church or displays, no sign that anything but the most the most commonplace scene. His contemporaries might scoff if he told them the picture's history. Is God then a cow? Or a herd of cows? Blasphemy! Yet, stubbornly, our traveler, our amateur photographer, knows that his photograph is significant, that it hints of some truths that do not show anywhere in the scene itself. During his journey, he snaps many such pictures, each meaningful to himself, each different from the others, each containing some indescribable element that seems to touch his soul, while actually appearing no place in the photographs themselves. These spiritual intangibles, nevertheless, add immeasurable quality and depth to the photographs, so that whenever our friend looks at them again, he is filled with the inspiration, awe, or wonder that he felt originally when he snapped them. Little by little, that aura of significance seems to spread out into the physical world itself. To some extent, each barnyard scene, or city street, or daily encounter is imbued with an extra richness, so that the events seem to be what they are, yet somehow more than what they are. Our friend feels as if there is another world, shimmering within and around the natural one, invisible merely because he does not know what to look for, Not only is he an amateur photographer, but he begins to suspect that he is an amateur seer as well. Just beyond his vision, he senses that the natural world fills out, or is somehow more complete than his present vision allows him to ascertain. Almost without realizing it, our traveler begins to change his focus of awareness, tries to spy out those other sense dimensions that surround the world. He keeps his visionary camera ever ready. Now and then he experiences a very strange event, while he sees nothing in the natural world that he didn't before. He senses an inner intangible detail come into focus with a natural one. A leaf, for example, will suddenly line up with an invisible counterpart of itself and become momentarily filled out, so that it is itself and something else besides. A new completeness shimmers in his veins and stems so that one leaf stands out in the oddest fashion from all the others on a given tree. Yet, for the life of him, our friend cannot say what it is that he really senses. In frustration, yet filled with challenge, he stands there, snapping photographs, hoping to capture this additional vitality. Or, as he walks along, our traveler unaccountably feels almost off balance for a moment. The road beneath him shimmers or trembles ever so slightly, or odd reflections appear for which he sees no cause. The road seems to connect with another, sensed one, so that for an instant he walks both of them at once, or rather, both roads become one. The air about him sparkles. He barely glimpses the people who surround him, yet bits and pieces of them are imbued with that additional intensity, while other portions, an arm or leg or side of the face, are normal and incomplete in the larger vision. Our friend may almost lose his footing for a moment. Quickly, however, he recovers and he snaps a photograph. This time he is convinced that he has captured something. Again, his photograph shows the physical scene only. While he admits that this is the case, our traveler sees that his photographs are improving. The details are sharper and clearer, while the entire pictures have attained an atmospheric quality difficult to describe. Furthermore, changes have occurred in himself somewhere along the line, while he was so engrossed in his picture taking. For occasionally, as he walks along, our photographer feels himself dip into a new focus, and when the road shifts in that indescribable fashion, he shifts inside himself, seeming to become lined up with the invisible part of his own reality that he had barely sensed before. He becomes fuller, more real, filled out. All of his sensations and awarenesses are tuned to a full focus, more detailed and yet surrounded by an atmospheric oneness that serves to unite them. This is a new experience indeed, and it gives our traveler due pause. Is he then a part of this invisible world also? The affair ends as quickly as it began, however. Our friend steps out of this greater sensed self, finding himself simply walking along the road again. But There is a difference. Now he feels this other self before him or around him, and he consciously tries to match his steps to these sensed giant steps. They aren't giant steps, of course, but they seem to be to our traveler. Those steps, while his own, in some normal way that he doesn't understand, still seem more assured than his, firmer yet lighter, and he begins to think that they move with all the courage, wisdom, and knowledge that he feels within himself only rarely, and seems unable himself to use. As he still rather unconsciously walks in his own greater footsteps in this fashion, he notices that the way is definitely easier. He feels synchronized with himself. He realizes that he is also more than he thought he was. As he really understands this, something else happens and a new motion comes into the world. He feels the natural world with all its splendor and variety forever coming into existence from a super nature or from a natural source that gives it birth, and he can sense, though dimly, that some motion in himself, that same motion in himself. And he can sense, though dimly, that same motion in himself, energy rushing into his being, washing into him like a tide, so that his existence is not confined to the bubbles of thought with which he was familiar, but filled with depth and swirling power beneath. That energy takes the form of nature. That energy takes the form of nature. As he understands this, he looks at his photographs with new excitement. What he glimpsed as he snapped them was that supernatural force coming into natural form, super nature coming into natural focus. He sees that at each point in his life, he is present at the birth of the universe, the beginning of the road, and his present position, and the end, all exist now. Only his focus prevented him from seeing this earlier. Though our traveler understands this, try as he will, he sees only the normal road ahead of him, reaching into the future. Even if he turns around, he moves forward into the future, only without seeing where he is going. For a while, he is frustrated anew. All of these matters so take his attention, however, that he ignores as trivial impediments that earlier would have seemed momentous. And he notices now and then that his natural vision has expanded somewhat. He sees a bit further than his fellows into the distance ahead, and his peripheral vision also includes more sideways events than earlier. This happens so easily, however, that our friend accepts the additional light as quite natural until he happens to compare his view of the world with that of his contemporaries. Furthermore, he is so used to the challenges that have happened within himself that he forgets his own earlier limited vision, which is taken for granted by others as once it seemed natural to him. By now, in fact, his fellows may begin to view our friend as a very strange specimen indeed, since little by little he has ceased to follow many of the conventional dogmas of the day and age. This process also happens so gradually that he wonders how he came from his original dependence upon social, religious, and scientific benefits to his present rather independent thought. He remembers giving lip service to many such conventions long after he ceased believing in them. Now that he resolutely holds his own, however, new dimensions, new dilemmas arise. Oh dear. Now that he resolutely holds his own, however, new dilemmas arise. Sometimes members of the scientific or religious communities alike come to him with artificial deference, requesting his views on a variety of subjects. His questioners have ready-made answers to which he cannot agree, yet his intuitive replies sound childish when rationally rendered. He finds himself saying, "Yes, time is, but it is not." Or, "We are each individuals forever, yet we are forever part of an indefinable whole." Or, "No, of course, my picture of the cow is not a photograph of God, and yet, in other terms, of course, it is." His learned friends shake their heads, or shake their fists, according to their natures, and either leave him alone completely or attack him in their journals. The scientist may call him a fool. The priest may call him blasphemous. Our friend, if he has really found faith, and if he is really paying attention to faith's visions, is able to ignore such querulous interludes. For his faith is open, still forming, and he knows that it is a continuing way or path more than anything else. He does not need to defend himself. If he has any sense, he will show his visional photograph album to no one with any intent to improve anything. Instead, he will take a good lunch, pick up his camera, and go his way. And that concludes the last chapter of this book. What a wonderful book. And that chapter certainly is food for thought, isn't it? Well, I hope you enjoyed it. The next chapter, as I said before, is the epilogue, and this will be Jane talking about the journal and talking about William James and talking about her life. And that should be very interesting, so I hope you'll join me for that. And if you have any ideas on other books you'd like to hear me read, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any thoughts on this book, this wonderful book, leave some thoughts in the comments below. I'll read them all. I will respond to them all. Till soon.